And they haven't been home for 2 years.
Hmm.
And then try to explain President Trump to them.
Get close to being on hot mic. I'm hoping not yet, but. Good.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the December 29th, 2025 Lenawee County Board of Commissioners Accounts Payable Meeting and Reconciliation Meeting for accounts for the end of the year. I would ask for approval of the minutes of December 11th, 2025.
So move.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Martis, supported by Administrator Murphy. Is there any discussion, any additions or corrections? Excuse me. Additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carried. We'll do the accounts payable vouchers, and we'll start out with the listing on date there, 12/18.
Me to go first, Jim?
Sure.
I only got two. Page 3, you're gonna think I've been triggered by the word, but I see we have a Ramsdale solar power system and a weather station. Do those go in connection with each other, or what's going on out of?
Yes, those are connected together. This is part of a project for weather monitoring out at Ramsdale Park.
And is that done in conjunction with Siena Heights?
It's actually done in connection, I believe, with the Oaks grant. I think is assisting in paying for that.
And then on page 9, like human services building, meeting room renovation, we had 24,000, a red letter. Presume is what, doing presentation equipment and so forth. or-
Yes, this is probably it's probably the communication systems like we have.
Yeah, I can take that, Paul. Thank you. A while back, we approved a project at the Human Services Building wherein we are going to be renovating the meeting rooms. So the Spartan Room, River Raisin Room, Lenawee Room, making some adjustments. So what you're seeing here are some of the invoices starting to come through for some of those renovations that are going to be taking place.
That's all I had on that run.
So on page 3, I noticed the difference between the monitoring for the alarm system. So the alarm system for the courthouse is $183, and the monitoring for the human services building is $1,100. Is that an annual monitoring?
I believe this is based on different things. If a hydrant need or a fire extinguisher needs recharged, also it's likely that there are more fire extinguishers at the Human Services Building.
Okay, so it's not alarm monitoring as much as it is overall safety equipment?
Yes.
Okay. And I would imagine that, yeah, at the Human Services Building, there's probably a lot more equipment out there. Okay, got it. Toward the bottom of that page, there's a reimbursement. Things are not working too well. For Judge Anzalone for reimbursement for $2,200, but no explanation.
Yes, I apologize for that. This is her insurance, liability insurance, which is being reimbursed here.
On, page 4, at the bottom, Department on Aging, Adrian Center floor deposit. Do- Who's that? What that mean?
It's wind.
Oh, man, really? In the windows?
Yeah.
Wow. Must get exciting up here sometimes. You play a little tune, huh? So, we rent those or pay a service fee for using those, right? I know, I mean, I'm just wondering why we have a floor deposit for $2,700.
I know this is to clean the floors that were repair damaged. I am not certain why we are responsible for that over Adrian Center. I will have to contact the Department on Aging to get more details on that.
Okay. You don't, Kim, you're no,
Yeah, it's not ringing a bell with me right now, so I would have to, we'd have to check with Ms. Roботero to find out on specifically what that one is for.
because we rent those facilities, right?
We do.
We do. On, the Drain Commission, 2026 Winter Conference on page 8. I see it's $1,050. That's for a number of things, or,
That is registration for, I believe we sent 3 or 4
okay,
individuals.
more than one, okay, very good. Thank you. Sheriff's Department, on page 15, Auto Clear LLC, computer equipment for 5165. Doesn't most computer equipment go through the IT department?
Yes, I'll have to look into exactly what this is. My assumption is that it's sheriff specific, so it would not go through the IT department. My mistake. I do know what this is. It is an extremely specialized hard drive as well as a service to correct a previous hard drive so that they can keep very sensitive information on it. And it appears that one of them may have corrupted and that data was difficult to retrieve.
And so our IT department was involved in,
Because of the sensitive nature of it, they do not,
okay.
they involve as few people as possible.
So it might have to do, okay, gotcha. And then also, I'm sure there's an explanation on your half, right, little down below there on Lowe's, it just says November 25th statement for credit card with a $333. So no explanation of what it is, but I'm sure you cleared that, right?
Yes, I've cleared all the expenses.
I think that may be all I have on. Well, I noticed again, there was on the sheriff's department on the next page, a miscellaneous computer supplies for another $378 and was charged, but that might be for minor stuff like mouse or something like that, is that?
Yes, I believe that it's going to be basic things such as flash drives and
Okay,
mice.
gotcha, the minor stuff, okay, so wouldn't necessarily go through IT. Okay, that's all I had on that one. Anybody else? Any questions?
I did look up that A1 resources on the cleaning deposit, and it appears that there is, it says cleaning and maintenance services, and that's 50% of the invoice amount. So, and I don't know if that helps at all or not, but roughly the estimate was $5,500 and $2,750 is that deposit for those services.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Not on that run.
Okay, well, we're going to go to the 1229 run or 1228, however you got it listed.
I mean, it was a 1222, I hope,
1222, I don't know what happened to it. Okay, go ahead.
because I've never missed one of these runs.
Yeah.
On page 2, buildings and grounds, I see a $3,400 says complex vacuum. Are there any more details on that?
This is for multiple vacuums. The complex is, the buildings for the judicial building, the sheriff's building, this building, the annex building, and it was several vacuums.
For inside buildings, not yard vacuums or anything?
Yes.
All right. And I had one on page 8. Sheriff's Department. It's, let me see. $178 sheriff storage, January 2026. That struck me as an odd description.
Yes, the sheriff has, some very large items for specific, purposes like, water, safety equipment.
Okay, so this is the sheriff's department in general.
Yes,
And it's just for, we're paying some storage for some larger equipment.
that is correct.
Okay. And then I see also that we have a lot of expense with our water sports. After this is all the Marine Patrol. Red Devils Lakes Water Sports invoices.
Yes.
And what's the isn't there a funding issue with that now? Something, Administrator Murphy, you recall this discussion about, was there state support or something for Marine patrols?
It was withdrawn.
Did you want to answer that?
Or yeah, whomever.
I'll help your memory if you don't remember. There was, I think the federal funding was cut and the sheriff department received a letter from the state saying that they would maintain or keep us whole for that amount. I think
Like
that's
$10,000 or
Yes.
something is all it was.
correct.
Okay. That's what my thought was when you look at just the equipment expenses and repairs.
When if you recall, when we were talking about the 2026 budget, we were looking at the Marine Patrol budget to find out if, because right now the county is upfronting all costs for patrolling of all of the lakes and that sort of thing throughout the county. And there was some discussion because the funding from state and federal government is in question of what that might look like and whether we would request or inquire about any local participation in those costs. The other option is to eliminate Marine Patrol services, but I don't think that in a county that has as many lakes as we do, that was something we were interested in. And so there was throughout 2025, as the federal and state budgets were trying to get finalized, there was question as to whether we were going to receive the funding that was originally allocated to us or not. Federal government at one point did say that there was going to be no funding, and we did receive notification from the state that they would make up that difference. I don't know for sure what that looks like going forward because it appears as though there are changes throughout the year. So I think just to keep that in the back of our mind as we go into 2026 and begin to incur expenses, to understand that when we get to year end next year, depending on what it looks like with our partner funding sources and whether they are partnering or not, we may need to contribute more in general fund to that area than what we currently do.
And so if I may, so just to refresh my memory, so we did in the 26 budget for Marine Patrol for next summer.
Yes, we did.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mhm.
that it?
That's it.
Oh,
That's all I
sorry.
have from that run.
Okay, page 1, Boys and Girls Club, Lily Funds Education, 1,400. I take it the money comes in for us and then we send it back out to them so that they can get a tax break. Okay.
That is correct.
Yeah, I'm catching on, Paul. Don't worry, I don't want your job. Careful, there. We're on the air.
It's okay.
Building and grounds and maintenance, Imperial Dade Complex, oh, you did that one, complex
Yep.
vacuum, okay, good. District Court, just for my information, somebody just give me a little update on how we pay jury pay. How come it's all over the place? Some are, $58, some are $18. I don't understand that.
So not all of the jurors have to be there for the entirety. Some are just called in and then sent, basically, not chosen for the 12-person jury. There's also a difference in mileage based on how far
Okay.
they have to travel.
Okay, that would make a big difference of coming from different parts of the county, okay. Thank you. And if you're chosen as a, what do they call, not the chairman, what is it of the jury, not the chairman, foreman, does that pay a premium?
I do not believe so, but I would have to check with district court.
That's okay, it's just for my information, it's not really for an accounts payable, thank you though. I'm just curious how all those things work. Oh, okay. This is Register of Deeds on page 8. And monumentation 521 through 12/5, $45,000. Is that, we're out surveying the county or?
These are supplies. They're actually buying monumentation markers and large things such as that. This is, yes, the county's portion of our remonumentation. So that was on page 8.
Yes.
Yeah, right, like 1, 2, third, second item down, Manick and Smith.
Oh, okay, so this is actually replacing, this is several spots where they had to either replace a marker or a state line,
Wow,
things of that nature, which can be very heavy, like need heavy equipment.
oh, okay. Wow, okay.
And I think the bill was signed into law that's paying to clean up the border between the state of Michigan and Indiana.
Huh.
The state approved an expenditure for that because apparently some of them are off a foot or so.
So is some of the, is some of this reimbursed then by the state or federal government?
I would have to check into that. I would have to check with,
It's-
Matt, do you know? Okay, you can feel free to participate in the conversation
Yeah,
in your microphone.
That is part of the remonumentation grant,
There you
Okay.
go.
so it's grant funded,
yes.
okay.
We've had to vote on these grants before, right? Didn't we have to approve?
Yeah, the contracts that we have with Manick Smith for all the different people who take care of that contract for us. But yeah, thank you, Matt.
And I would just throw a comment here for anybody who might be watching from home. You say, well, how can these guys not know this stuff off the top of their head? But we're looking at maybe 1,000 transactions every 2 weeks. And that's an awful lot to mentally keep in your mind as to what everyone is about, so.
That's also 7-month. It says May through December on that, Manic, Manic or Manic,
Manick Smith.
on that bill, Manic and Smith.
Well, and again, to continue on with Commissioner Martis's comments, these have been gone through 3 or 4 checks before they get to us. So the chance of having an error here are pretty slim.
And you and I are the least well-equipped
Right.
to find problems here because we're just reading these printouts. So,
Mostly questions on how it happens. So, on the sheriff's department CPL renewal for 25, so somebody's getting their concealed pistol license, concealed gun license. If you're a sheriff's deputy and you have identification, you don't need a concealed license. Are we paying for individual concealed licenses?
I'm not sure who this one's for.
I believe this, is an employee. I believe this is a benefit that we have been doing previously in the past. I'm not certain if it is part of their union contract or not.
Oh, okay,
You'd have to look into that one a little bit more.
okay. Just interested because I don't think they need a CPL for, they have their sheriff identification, so. Treasurer's office on the excuse me, asbestos abatement for $12,000 on page 9.
Presume that's a land bank property.
The,
Is that it? Land
yes,
bank?
that would be correct.
Yeah. Oh, pretty good there, Commissioner Martis.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had on that one. Anybody else have any questions on the run for 1222?
Nope.
Okay, then I would ask for approval of those 2 vouchers.
So move.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Martis, supported by Administrator Murphy. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Other business, is this the time of year that we go through the reconciliation, and the staff here has gone through the entire budget to make sure that we don't have any deficit funded areas, that we have to do a compliance review for the year with the state to make sure that, and we're not on a line item budget so that we can move these funds around. So does anybody want to add to that before we start out here?
Just for the purposes of the meeting, what we do is our finance team, as it gets closer to the end of the year, we do go through every line item in the budget and every single department to take a look at what it looks like as far as what was budgeted, what is actually spent, and figure out what adjustments might need to be made. And those adjustments are made within, we have some departments that may have been under budget, so there is a lump sum that we can utilize to help fund maybe another area. And so Dan Zamalzak is our finance director, excuse me. And he is going to run through a PowerPoint here to kind of go through some of the detail of what those amendments are going to look like, and be able to answer any questions that you may have. And in the end, we will be looking for a recommendation to move forward with the items that he will be presenting to you.
Before I start, I just want to say, today happens to be the first time in 63 years that my wife's age begins with the number 7. So happy birthday to her. And I think she probably wouldn't want me to be anywhere else than at this meeting at the moment. Couple comments to begin with.
Duly noted.
You made a comment about the accounts payable and all the transactions. We review almost 7,000 accounts as we go through this budget, and it is true, we're not, you've got a list of line by line adjustments, but we're actually looking at basically that department or division adjustment. This year is kind of an anomaly year, going back to the number 7, I guess. Every 7 years, the payroll cycles work where instead of 26 biweekly pays, the calendar shifts to where there's an extra pay there, that 27th pay. And so this accounts a little bit for some of the changes that we're going to see in the wages. So we have, an extra pay, even though everybody they get paid the same amount. And it's always kind of HR is always fielding questions on those, in those years, as to why did my paycheck go down when I got a raise? And it's because we're spreading it out over an extra pay, basically. So next year it'll look like a bigger raise because we're back on the 26 pay cycle. Plus we have roughly a half a pay to accrue from the time of the payroll to next pay, which overlaps the 2 years. So there's going to be some changes there. Also, part of the salary changes you'll see are just basically realigning maybe where people were charged. Maybe, they overlapped into another department or division for a pay or two. Also, there's some grant adjustments in there as well. So with that, I'm ready to start. We're going to go over the general fund first and then the non-general fund. and the Personnel Ways and Means Committee, and then subsequently the Board of Commissioners approved an amendment in December for the non-general fund amendments. So there will be fewer of those when we get to that point. So if we can go to we're on that slide here with the general fund. Our current amended budget is $41.6 million as well, revenues and expenditures. Year to date, we're running about $500,000 surplus. Excuse me. And then we've got some proposed adjustments that will suggest that as basically projecting about $620,000 in a surplus. And so those amendments include a $1.7 million increase in revenue, which we'll get to, and also about $1 million in expenditures. The $622,000, we just kind of want to file that for a little bit later when we get it toward the end of the presentation. And with that, we'll go to the next.
So can we, are we asking questions as we go along?
Yes,
So can we go back there, please?
sure.
So budget that we approved for 25 last year was 41,662,899, right?
That's an amended budget. The original budget was somewhere in that neighborhood, but there were some grant, I think some grant requests. I think particularly, if I recall, the Veterans VA grant was changed at the state level where it was reduced. And so in that case, we would have moved some money out of the adopted budget into this amended column. And if I recall, it's like $30,000 more or less was the change.
Yeah, Administrator Murphy.
So in this presentation, what you're seeing is throughout the year, there's been a couple times that we have brought budget adjustments to the Board of Commissioners. And so in preparation for this meeting, those budget adjustments have been made. And when we do a budget adjusted, essentially what we're doing is we are amending the budget to reflect the new figures. So those budget adjustments come in the form of both revenues and expenditures. Oftentimes when we receive an increase in grant funds, they are also associated to an increase in grant expenditures. So that's kind of what you're seeing here. So the amended budget is where we are at as of our last set of budget adjustments.
So we did amend that throughout the year in order to go to the bigger amount. Okay.
We have.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so if we look at the general fund, we're going to first focus on this $1.7 million on the revenue side. And the next slide shows a little recap here, and we're going to go one by one over that. So in the district court, there was a $75,000 projected increase in revenue, and that was in the court filing fees for civil cases. We budgeted originally $150,000, and this will raise it to $225,000. If we look at the treasurer, that's the big number. $1.6 million. Our original budget for interest income was $500,000, and we're pushing $2.1 million at the moment. And part of this was that ARPA money that we weren't really sure where or how quickly we were going to spend that money down. And most of that money went to the Maury Spears campus renovation. And so this brings that number back up to about $2.1 million. Now, just for reference, that money's about all gone now. As I told the Administrator Murphy, November's interest posting to that account was 66 cents. So we know we're just about out of money in that regard. So as we look at county farm, there's just a slight increase for some rental income, and then the sheriff account had $30,000 increased in the MCOLS grant, which is to, I believe, offset training from that. It's basically a grant the state gives us for the training of our police officers. And just for the general public, you see those increases, in grant funding, a lot of times you don't see the revenue till you use it. So for example, in that ARPA case, 3 years ago, maybe it was 4 years ago, we got $20 million in money that people would say, well, that's income to you. Well, it's not income until you spend that money. So then you have that matching offset basically. So,
If I just want to hit on the sheriff's, the MCOS grant there, that 30,000 for training. You may have recalled the sheriff has come to several meetings talking at the criminal justice committee level, indicating that he is training new deputies and they're going to school. That is where this revenue comes in, to train those deputies. And if you recall, he indicated that they had applied for some additional MCOS funding throughout 2025 and were able to get in one more additional deputy to be trained before they shut off the funding for the year. So that's the majority of what you're seeing there is the revenue side of that training. And there will be a corresponding expense side.
And the county farm is basically the 140 acres that we lease out for the farmer to farm. And then we, in turn, just for the public's information on that, have to pay tax on that property because
Correct.
it's an income property, correct?
correct.
Okay.
All right. Just want to go back there. Oh, yeah. All right. I'll cover it the next time. So if we go, this is just basically your recap again. We're going to go into the expenditures and focus on now the increase of $1,083,000. And I forgot to mention that you'll see these little numbers to the left of the titles, and those will correspond to your budget amendment sheet, the department code. So as we go through, the Board of Commissioners, their department had a decrease of $35,000. Originally in the 2025 budget, we had put in $50,000 for a planning session that will occur in 2026, and it will also be, I guess I'll say gratis by the coordinator or basically the leader of that session. And so that money then was reallocated mostly to the accounting and audit fees, where there was about a $15,000 increase. And then also $20,000 more or less to legal fees, because that was a little higher than originally anticipated. There are also some small adjustments in the wages, health insurance, and some of the benefit contributions. So,
Question.
Mhm.
So, and this is not for reconciling this, but did we put money in the 26 budget for the new facilitator that we're going to have so that we can pay stipends for him? Did we do that?
Excuse me. We did not put anything in there yet because we have not yet decided what that might look like. But I think that there is enough room in the 26 budget to absorb what we're talking about. He is right now not asking for anything. However, I agree that we need to include some sort of reimbursement to him. I just don't know what that looks like yet.
Good. And then on the commission budget, so $5,000, the 10,000 altogether on mileage and taxable wages and health insurance. So did we attend more meetings, or what was that 5,000? I mean, it's not a big number, but
We have a lot of meetings we're attending, and I don't know if in the past, not everybody has submitted for their mileage reimbursement, but they are definitely submitting for the reimbursement now. On the health insurance, that went up when this budget was put together in 24. If you recall, we start putting the budget together mid-year of 24, and we did not know for sure what commissioners would be taking the health insurance benefits, vision, dental, et cetera. So that's why you are seeing some of those adjustments that are needed, because we had more taking part in those benefits than we had originally expected.
okay.
And a lot of these adjustments are based on not only our projections, based on salary positions, for example, but also, on, past performance. So if one year was, down, or a couple of years in a row were down or up, we may adjust accordingly. And so in this particular case, the prior years may have been a little less than anticipated. And so when we budgeted, and the actual numbers came in, it was a little higher than we anticipated.
Okay.
Circuit Court, their budget expenses increased slightly by $19,000, and that's mostly in the wages. Other transcripts was $4,500 of that, and then wages to employees and elected officials were slightly up as well.
And that's mostly because of the extra payment.
Part of that, and then also I think the court case, there's been quite a bit more this year in court cases, I'll say.
You're gonna see, yeah, as we went, again, I'm gonna refer to the 26 budget because as we went through 25, we were learning more about what we could see coming in 26. The transcripts fees went up by SCAO mandated that the per page transcript fees go up, and they went up substantially, which is impacting all of the courts. And anything that you see that says transcripts, it's impacting that. So in 2026, we did increase transcript fee costs and reimbursements. And again, I think in a lot of these that Mr. Zamolzak is going to be showing you, you're going to see wages are impacted. Part of that is because of the 27 pays that we have in this year versus the normal 26 pays. And then there's overtime and that sort of thing due to the holidays that are in there. Also, we have had departments that maybe you're going to see some maybe decreases because we didn't fill all the open positions that were in their budgets. In another area, and specifically we'll get to, you're going to see a very large increase. And that has to do with bailiffs and having more court cases and needing more security than originally estimated when we were preparing the budget in 2024. So when we'll get to that, I'll share a little bit more.
I did see that in there. I had that highlighted on mine.
I figured you would.
Okay, district court, their expenses went up, budgeted $75,000, which is an offset to that income side that we see budgeted for them. And I just wanted to point out here, if you look at the district court plus the next three, friend of the court, probate court, some of that is basically realigning where those expenses are. So you can see between those four departments, the net is actually a little bit of a reduction of roughly $10,000. So some of that was just realigning where the charges were going to. And so in the district court, for example, we saw some wages, particularly health insurance went up $45,000 over the original budget. And then we go down to friend of the court.
And why was that?
Well, again, some of that is just more employees changing their option to either take insurance or again, realigning
Okay.
where it is. And so if we go down to friend of the court, 141, we can see there's a $40,000 reduction in health insurance right there. And so it's almost a dollar for dollar offset, as well as there's also a reduction in wages in that department. So it's not, that maybe the employee was working for one department over the other, but maybe they were just not aligned exactly where in the correct, in the department they should be in. We go down to probate court. Again, a lot of these are salary and wage related, and that's exactly where this $74,000 increase occurs. Then when we go down to the next probate juvenile area, we can see that there's a lot of shift out of that department. And so what I try to do in this regard is to try to kind of keep those expenses within at least that purpose. So even though they're not the same department, it's within that court building where we're trying to basically balance out and minimize the increases on the expense side as much as possible. And then in the Circuit Court Probation Department, there's a slight increase, $4,500. They had an increase in copy fees that weren't originally projected. So, and I'm not sure where those came, what caused that other than that's where the line item needed to be adjusted. So in administration, we have an increase of $30,000, which is in health insurance and then the health insurance deductible. And again, some of this is to project so that we don't have this overage in any given department because we want to keep those findings, I guess, on our audit to a minimum. So we're being very conservative in some of those estimates, and these are getting very close to the line. So we increased those slightly to give us a little bit more of a cushion in that regard.
Well, like on health insurance and the administrator, new employee,
This can just be within our department. We have employees changing the plan in which they are in. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's gone up a total of 15,000. And in all of these, we are guesstimating where we think the year end is going to be. So it may have gone up a little bit more, but we are wanting to make sure that we fall within the requirements of the Accounting Act to make sure that we are not going over budget. So we do have the funding available. So in these regards, we are making sure we're adding a little bit of a buffer because this is in anticipation of expenses in some cases, which we don't know if we have all of them accounted for yet or not.
The clerk's office goes down just slightly, and that's offset by the jury board department. So they're kind of offsetting each other for no impact between those two departments. As I mentioned, the external audit was increased. That was offset a little bit by that. What was it? The $46,000 decrease in the commissioners, the Board of Commissioners budget. And then we go to Infotech, and that's a very large increase of roughly $272,000. A lot of these are the applications and programs that we have. And for example, there's one in particular that comes to mind where we received basically IT indicated they received an invoice that's basically non-negotiable, and it was a $75,000 increase over the current contract. And I don't remember, I want to say it was like an 80% increase over the previous invoice. And this particular program, I believe, is what coordinated all the different platforms within the county so that they can communicate through this one software application. Plus there are other software applications that just generally become increase over time and sometimes very quickly, I guess. Sometimes it feels like once they got you hooked, now you're captive to some extent. So their service contract amount is $250,000 of that 272,000. So we did see a little decrease in the communications amount, but that's our projection for that account.
And I just want to point out that when we say the Infotech, we're talking about, IT department, but that department is where we house all of the service contracts for all of the programs throughout the county. So all of the I should say the majority of the departmental service contracts are housed here. And then in some cases, they may be billed back to some of the non-general fund departments. But just for clarity, this isn't something that just IT is expending funds on. They just happen to be the placeholder for all of the service contracts within the county.
I believe, and maybe, Kim, maybe you recall, I don't remember the name of the program, but, there was some recording program that the courts use. And it kept failing, and, I think this is one of those, contracts that they changed over, and I don't remember.
I don't recall the name of the, what is it? Yes, it is. VIQ.
That's it.
Thank you, Paul.
So, transitioning out of that is also going to account for part of that increase. Printing and purchasing, most of their, they had a large increase in postage. Most of the other changes in their, department, are offset amongst the different personnel accounts. But $25,000 of this change, was due to, increase in postage. Insurance and bonds, that was a $15,000 increase, and that should, there was just a slight increase year over year in that regard. And again, it won't probably be the full $15,000, but we're creating that, that possibility that we get some sort of a last second bill that, we weren't anticipating. Treasurer had a slight increase, in salaries, in health insurance, wages. I guess it's totally in wages, $10,000. And some of that again is, anticipating, we still have one pay that hasn't posted. It will post tomorrow. And then that half pay, for the, basically the overlap of the 2 years. Equalization and extension, those were kind of coordinated to offset each other. Equalization has a slight decrease in, wages and health insurance, while MSU extension had, similar increases in those two areas, although the professional and contractual was also increased by $20,000. So
That $20,000 on that, because MSU is just a stipend for, it's not a required funded position, right? Department.
MSU Extension, we actually hold a memorandum of understanding with them, and we are required pursuant to that agreement to pay for, I believe it is 2 full-time employees out of MSU Extension.
So what would the professional contractual, that would be those positions you're talking about?
Trying to think of how those
was-
are coded.
That went up 20 grand?
yeah, I'm trying to find that one too, I guess.
Trying to see if that's how it's coded within here before I respond.
That should be actually, pretty close. The actual should be pretty close to, what we're seeing currently. This is for, basically, this is the, contract. It's $39,000 every quarter that we're paying.
Yeah, so I believe what you're seeing here is there's 2 things going on with our contract. One is a general services contract, which I think is what is coded under the professional and contractual, which says that, I mean, we do pay a certain amount for MSU Extension to be able to offer all the programming and everything that is offered throughout over at the Human Services Building and with 4-H and all of those different services. So we do pay a sum to have those programs here. In addition, pursuant to that contract, we pay for the employees that I mentioned, and that's where you're seeing wages and health insurance. So there's 2 parts to that contract, and I think they're being billed, they're being accounted for separately here.
So those would be like, because we didn't catch them in the budget, those would be new professional or contractual, right?
That's what the contract itself, doesn't usually renew until after or right near the time we adopt our budget. And so what I'm thinking here is that there was an anticipation of what the contract is going to be. The contract came in and it was a little bit more than what we had budgeted. And so that's where this adjustment is coming from.
Yeah.
And again, that's another thing when we're talking about some of these adjustments. or like service contracts or some of these other things. We are doing a budget where we are finalizing it in probably August of the year before any of the expenses actually take place. So we're doing our best guess to estimate what those are, but sometimes they're a little bit more than what we estimate for, which is why we budget for a contingency within general fund also to take care of any of these expenditures that we may not get exactly right.
Thank you.
And again, we've made the 4 quarterly payments already, but we're trying to be conservative and also head off any possibility for an audit finding. So in the effort to be conservative within that department, that's why we've got that additional money in that professional contractual. In the end, it may impact a different line item, but, we don't want to give you $50 here and $100 and $2,000 here. So it's a lot more it's easier to put, to lump everything into one line account. As we go to legal counsel, that we talked about that increase that was coming out of that board commissioners budget for the original $50,000 strategic planning. That was part of that money was moved into here. And then we go into the prosecuting attorney department, and there are again wage increases and health insurance increases here that amount to that $150,000. Okay, as we move forward, the Register of Deeds has a slight increase in their wages, $10,000. And then we talked about that there's the surveyor and the county farm. Those two basically offset each other. The county farm had that slight increase in taxes. I think it was actually $50 that we needed to balance their budget, but again, we put in the extra $200 just to be, just basically tie in with that revenue amount. Oops. And then we go into the sheriff account, and they're one of the larger increases. We have some increases in salaries of $150,000, the certification fees, school and certification fees of $75,000, some of which that is offset with that MCOLS grant. And then there's security equipment and supplies, which they had a system go down, I believe that it was on Windows 10, and Windows 10 is no longer supported by this program, so we had to basically upgrade that entire system. And then vehicle repairs was budgeted considerably lower than what it looks like it's coming in. It was originally adopted at $65,000. We're adding $150,000 to that account in and of itself. Some of that is offset with reimbursement through insurance. But again, to basically make sure that department stays within the budget, we have to actually increase that amount. So, all right. And also,
Know why insurance companies are wanting to increase the deer permits, right?
I guess that would make sense. I never
I
connect.
didn't hear the question.
I
I
never
said, I
made that
guess we know
connection.
why the insurance companies want to increase deer permits, right?
Oh,
I never made that connection, I guess, but, yeah. that
We have a
would-
lot of deer damage with our sheriff's cars, yeah.
Sure.
When you think of government as being an all-powerful entity, and then you realize it's really the software service providers that have the real power.
Yeah, get all the money, all right.
So, if you, the next area would be, court bailiffs. I don't know. I didn't put them on there, I guess, for whatever. Oh, yeah. I have it listed as registered. It's a typo there. That should say court bailiffs from not register of deeds on the PowerPoint. That was an increase of $100,000. And, that's that's part of the offset. So if you look at your printout at the top of page 5, you'll see the sheriff department, the bailiffs, and the jail. When you kind of put all those together, their salary changes are almost offset one against the other. Of course, in the case of the jail, we don't have that here because they're a net zero. I have them included at back end. But their health services for their inmate care was increased this year by $300,000. Those medical costs, just keep going up as they would for anybody else. So, between those three departments, the sheriff, the bailiffs, and the jail, their salary, changes are almost, basically a rearrangement out of one into the other. There is some overtime involved in there, and also with the holiday overtime coming up that we're estimating. So that's where we're at there. And I apologize for that, the typo in, Department 346.
And I just want to point out, just for clarity, that when we're saying that they offset each other and we're moving things around, because a lot of what we're talking about are wages. We are not talking about that we have moved people around. What we're talking about are the dollars
Right.
that are in each of those areas are being kept within that sector, if you will, and just moved around.
Okay, emergency manage, oh,
Bless you. Bless you.
all right. Emergency management had a slight increase of, $3,000. And then we go into the, substance abuse, liquor tax, which is, remittances we make to the state. And then there's also a very similar, although they're unrelated, the medical examiner decrease somewhat offsets that increase, and that $40,000 decrease is in the originally projected autopsy costs. So that went from roughly $143,000 down to $103,000, which is that $40,000 decrease. All right, Human Services, Department of Human Services, a very slight increase, somewhere, don't have that. Oh, it's still in the back of this page, $3,500. Veterans Affairs also, increased roughly $7,500. Again, in some of that is in that salary area. They had some changes, to their grants, where the state miscalculated the amount of money that would be appropriated to them. And I think it was roughly $36,000, that Lenawee County's Veteran Affairs Department was impacted. And so we made some of those changes during the year early on, and these are some additional changes. And then we see the planning and the 721 department planning, and then, that was increased by $1,000. And another typo here, this is the tax, should be the tax tribunal department was decreasing. So that's the $1,083,000 that we spoke of, earlier at the beginning. And, if we advance a couple slides, right there. We can see that the district court, even though we highlighted, some of their changes, their net change, is offset by that $75,000, in, civil court filing fees. Building and grounds, we were able to just basically realign where their budget accounts were, so they had a net zero, and the jail as well, had a net zero as we realigned, some of their accounts. So those three, if you looked, you'll see that on your, spreadsheet, that those are basically, $0 amounts, net dollar amounts in the expenditure side. So then we, just recapping again, we've got, we covered the $1.7 million proposed adjustment, in revenue, and just slightly over $1 million, almost $1.1 million in expenditures for a $622,000 surplus increase. As we go to the non-general fund, there's roughly a $2.5 million, well, it's projected $2.5 million surplus. And we'll go over that very quickly here. As I mentioned earlier, the non-general fund adjustments will be significantly fewer than what we saw in the general fund in terms of actual departments that are affected, or in this case, the different funds, because their adjustments occurred back in, I think it was December 8th or 9th at the meeting then. So if we go, we can just see the different changes here. In all cases, in the general fund, there's always an offsetting expense to the revenue, and that is either through an increase in a grant, but in most cases, it's using their rainy day fund or their fund balance, other uses of funds as we call them in our accounts. So Parks has a $10,000 change. Part of that, if I recall, is for storm damage at Gerber Park. And the offset revenue, most of that, a lot of that is reimbursement from insurance company income, and then also a slight use of fund equity. I don't think I brought my cheat sheet with me on the non-general funds. Sobriety court, very slight increase, $5,000, and that's oh yeah, I do have one here. And that's basically offset by use of fund reserve. Same for the enhanced treatment court. They went up $3,000, in criminal justice $5,000. Now the ARPA funds, $2.5 million. We talked about that a little bit on the general fund side. This is a little different. This $2.5 million represents the transfer from Department on Aging, that for basically their contribution to renovating the kitchen, which is going to be used by them quite a bit for their meals program. And so that's why this particular fund does not have an offsetting expense account, because those expenses were already included in the ARPA funding. So, which is a general fund account, or a sub department, I guess. And then Human Services Building has an increase of $100,000. That was for, I believe, professional and contractual fees. Yes. And so their offset was, again, other use of funds. And then Central Stores has a small increase as well, which is offset by billings and revenues. So if we look at the non-general fund, just that recap, you can see that we have a $2.5 million increase in the surplus, and that's all related to that Department on Aging transfer that we saw here during the month of December. The last piece is, you might recall that in the general fund, we were projecting a $622,000 surplus in our amendment. We're proposing that we use $500,000 of that surplus plus $1 million in contingency funding that we never used, and to use that as a proposed expense to transfer out of the general fund into the capital projects fund for future project uses. And we're going to ask the committee to approve that transfer up to the amended amount of $1.5 million. When I originally heard that sound, by the way, I thought that was like a plane or a jet that was like getting dangerously close to us. And I'm like, okay. So I've included in this packet then a recommended motion to approve the general fund and non-general fund budget adjustments as presented, in addition to the $1.5 million that we're proposing up to that amount from the general fund contingency account to the capital project fund. At this point in time, I'll ask if there are any questions or further discussion.
Chair would entertain a motion.
So move.
Support. Discussion. Questions for Dan? Dan, great job. I'm telling you, I went through all of my questions and you answered every one of them as I was going through my report here. So that was very nice.
I do want to mention that Paul Gilbert, who's here, and Matt Turgeon were very helpful and instrumental in putting these numbers together, in particularly since our budget analyst Tracy Stace is still off on an extended medical leave. So typically we would have had Tracy discuss this with the committee here. But one other thing I wanted to mention is we're considering as we go through the year with the action request forms, as there are budget implications, maybe altering that form to have a small checkbox that says, by approving this action request, the committee of the commission is also approving a budget amendment at that time. So we could immediately go into the system, increase that budget from the adopted to the amended. So then that number isn't running in a huge deficit in the future, but we're still working on that. The other part of that would be any time that would occur, we would clearly indicate that by approving that request form, the commission is also approving that budget amendment. And hopefully that will keep some of the major changes to a minimum.
Good idea. Well, thank you. Great report, Matt. Paul, thanks for your assistance in jumping in there, but as usual, you guys do a great job, so we appreciate it. Any other discussion on the motion? Questions for Dan, Matt, or Paul, or Kim?
No, I do applaud the finance department for everything that they've done and presented to you. As we said, Ms. Stace has been out on an extended medical leave and is still out of the office. And so not only are these staff members doing their normal job, they are taking on the year-end budget and accounting of that, which is not something that they would typically get as deep into. So I also applaud their efforts for everything that the three of them have been able to do and put together. And I will say that this is Dan's first year to actually do the budget presentation for you. So I think that he's done an outstanding job here.
And it was on a monumental date in my family, as I stated earlier, so.
No, I agree. It was clear, lucid, easy to understand and comprehend. I mean, I don't ever hope to be an expert at accounting, but you made it easy for a layman to understand. So thank you.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried and approved. So is there any other business to come before the Accounts Payable Committee? Any other business? No public here for public comment. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
A motion by Commissioner Myers, supported by Administrator Murphy. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed? No.